Manhood Neat podcast. Mr. Dwat, we're back. It's been, I think we messed up. We might have missed the 2-week cutoff for the umpteenth time, but we're back. I mean, apparently you've had some stuff going on. So what's been going on?
Oh man, yeah, we're just not good stewards. Just any kind of self-imposed discipline is just obviously we're just compromise after compromise. And next thing you know, we're what is it? Are we 3 weeks out?
3.5,
Is it a
something
month?
like that. Yeah, it's
Three
been
and a half.
It's been a minute.
Yeah. So yeah. So no, it's been good, man. It's been busy on my end. Like I had some stuff going on at work, and
Did you just have your Super Bowl? Did you have your Super Bowl?
yeah. And then we had some unique challenges with that, and but it went well, and I'm grateful. I learned a lot, and I learned that not always does certain people's yes mean yes and certain people's no mean no. So no, it was good, man. I was like, I still feel like I'm recovering from everything going on my end. So I took Friday off, and it was just well deserved. I don't like taking off from work. It's just not something I really do. And so, but I was like, I just told myself I got to take a day off. And I was thankful. I was thankful, man. I was tired. So had some long days, but we're good. What about y'all?
Yeah, it's been good. We're actually starting tomorrow. We start actually putting roots in the ground. So life is definitely getting busy. I'm currently recovering myself from, I don't know if it's tuberculosis or bronchitis, or pneumonia or whatnot, but I went down, I think it was last Sunday, so a week ago, I started running the fevers, and but it was a week I could not take off of work, so just kind of pushed through. Finally, like Thursday night, it was like 103.5 fever all night, and I was like, okay, I gotta do some resting. So I worked a half day Friday, and then like rest of the day, like so sick, like I didn't even play video games Friday night. Like that's how bad I was feeling. The Husker game yesterday did not help my mood or my condition. I don't even want to talk about that. But yeah, so I'm on the road to recovery. Hopefully by tomorrow morning, I'm feeling pretty good because it's not going to be a week where I'll be taking any time off. But yeah, so I've been kind of fighting that. Stuff's good. Kanan had the last football game yesterday, first round of playoffs. We were the number 5 seed. Tell me this: the 5, 6, and 7 seeds all tied. And then they flipped a coin to see where you would position. We positioned 5th. So 5th and 6th, or do we position 6th? Maybe 6, 7, 8. I can't remember. But anyways, 1 through 6 is the top section of the bracket, and then 7 through 12 is the bottom, right? But it's what week you play. So the first bracket, so 1 plays 6, 2 plays 5, all the way down.
Right.
So you're actually better off to have lost another game and gone to the lower portion of the bracket. Yeah, you get a week bye, and you'd be number 7 playing number 12. Like,
yeah,
I don't get it.
It's messed up.
It's a weird bracketing scheme. But so we lost the first playoff game. It was I mean, I think we lost 10 to 16 or something like that, or 10 to 8. I can't remember what it was, or 16 to 8. I can't remember. But it's one of those things where like, oh yeah, we're not going to win. Shucks, guys. like we felt bad for them, but at the same time we're like, break, so. But yeah. So
yeah, that's a tough place to be as a parent, because like you want your kids to win, you want them to do well, like you want them to enjoy. Some of my best memories are like when I was, in I guess middle school. We were playing baseball in East Cobb, and we're playing those kind of famous East Cobb teams, and we're playing in these tournaments late into the night. So some of my favorite memories growing up, but then now that I'm on like the parent side of it, it's like, man, it's 4:00. We need to wrap this up,
right.
Like,
Yep.
Like the second to last dairy show that Maddie had up in Gwinnett County, one of the girls finished second in her class. And so it was just this mixed bag of emotions, because everybody's like, oh my gosh, we're 3 hours away from home. And everybody was done except her. And so, because we travel as a team, right, we all waited, which was the right thing to do. But we all had to wait. And, everybody's like, hey, congratulations, but now the parents are like, oh my gosh, we got up, so instead of leaving at 2:00, we left Gwinnett County at 7 o'clock.
Oh,
So yeah. Tough. Yeah,
yeah,
it's tough.
it is tough.
It's a tough place to be.
Yeah, Kanan, he's pretty like good about it because he's like, football is not his favorite activity. At least this year one thing.
That.
So, but I do have to go ahead and give him some props. So I kind of talked about he had earned a starting position on the D line. We missed a game because not his fault, but we had a family trip planned for like a year and a half, and we did that family trip to the Ark. And so he was punished and removed from the starting lineup, for missing a game. And not only that, but then in practice, they didn't even put him back in the same position to earn it back. They put him in something completely new. Well, so the next game he didn't play at all just because he was trying to figure out. But last 2 games of the season, he does start as outside linebacker, makes some plays. So, and I was like,
nice.
hey, how do you feel? He's like, I'm okay. We lost. Like, I'm ready for football to be over. So I'm just proud of him for, even though he didn't really like enjoy it, like he kept putting in effort, So the life lessons that you want to come out of sports are coming out, I guess. So I was proud of him for that.
Yeah,
but,
I get that.
It's going to be nice to have a little break. One, I'm going to get real busy with work from now until April. So it'll be nice that I don't have to try to like feel bad for missing sports stuff. But Kanan's kind of looking forward to a break, and he does want to get back into the batting cages here before too long. So we'll probably start doing some of that on the weekends. But anyways, so this is a different episode tonight. We're doing we used to call them the top 10 on the 10s, but we've definitely done more than 10 episodes since our last top 10. But we will I don't want to say we'll do it every 10 episodes, but we will every now and then. We're just going to do an episode like we're doing tonight, where it's just kind of going over the top 10 bourbons we've tasted so far. This one's going to be a little interesting because I think a little over half of these you and I tasted together, but some of these are like from the Heritage episodes, right? Before Dwat was with us. And some of these bottles are actually bottles Dwat sent to the Heritage
That's true.
group. So it's going to be kind of interesting. So we'll kind of roll into that. And I got some stupid questions that you have no idea what they are that are coming at you. So it's going to be fun. So if you enjoy this episode, let us know. Just reach out at manhood.neat@gmail.com, manhood.neat@gmail.com. You can shoot us or copy us on a message on Instagram or shout out to us on the X. Any of those, we are around. And the biggest thing is just to share with your buddy, like and subscribe on any of your favorite podcast platforms. If you are on Apple Podcasts, if you could not only rate, but leave a comment or leave a review, that would be fantastic. Other than that, we just appreciate you listening. We do have a bottle we're going to sip on tonight while we talk about other bottles because we're the man. We can't like do an episode without having a new bourbon. And we don't have the infinity bottle thing rocking. So,
yeah. Do you have an infinity bottle?
Not currently going. No. It'd be kind of hard because the majority of the stuff we've been drinking, I've had 2 ounces of and just drank it during the episode. So
yeah, I get that. I just meant in general, like just
no. I used to do one. I did one, with the guys. Like basically, we'd pour some of every bottle we reviewed together, and but really since then, I haven't gone back to doing it.
Yeah, and that that's something we could start. I mean, once we move past these like carnival games,
Yeah.
That's definitely something we could do. That just hit me.
Yep.
Might be something to think about. Anyways.
So, all right. So for once, I get to announce the drink of the night because I actually chose one for a change. So this comes out of the trip we were on, and it is from the Neely Family Distilleries. It is the Hidden Barn Series Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey Single Barrel, and this is the Series 1. The Hidden Barn is actually is a distributor series that was kind of done. Neely did this series of it. Neely has since started releasing their own Neely branded stuff. But the mix on this, or the mash bill as you were, is 70% corn, 20% rye, 10% malted barley. And this is this was put in. It was collected at 127 proof and went into the barrel at 110, and this was bottled at 106 proof. And there's a total of 7 barrels that went into this small batch.
That's pretty exciting.
No, sorry, they weren't batched. There was just 7 barrels of a single barrel for the series. Yep, sorry.
Okay.
So, yep. So Neely, I don't want to go real deep into their history because you definitely need to go check out the distillery if you're in the area. So it is real close to Kentucky Speedway. It is definitely worth a trip. This family has been doing whiskey and bourbons for 11 generations. So
Crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yep. And they came, the original family that came over from, I can't remember which part of the UK it was. It's either Scotland or Ireland, I can't remember. But they were whiskey makers there as well. So it's gone ways back. They got their liquor license for the first time in 2015.
That's awesome.
Yes. And so the guy who's currently the master distiller, who's the 11th generation, and then his dad is his partner in it. But his dad had left the family bootlegging lifestyle and became a construction owner. And then his son, who went to UK, quit asking for money. And so his mom went down to the frat house and found that he had built a family-styled still. So not just some like a legit still. And that's why he wasn't needing money, because he was bootlegging so much. So she said, okay, it's time to take this legal. If you graduate, we'll help you get this thing set up and rolling. So he graduated from UK. They got their liquor license. And then so that was in 2015. You fast forward 14 months, and it's been like 2016, 2017. It's the first, he gets an invite to some bourbon or whiskey festival. I don't know which one it is. And his mom's like, well, you should enter some of your stuff. They have a 4-year and younger category. And he's like, Mom, my oldest juice is 14 months. Like, I'm not putting 14-month-old juice up against 4-year-old juice. Like, and she's like, well, that's young too. He's like, no, it's not. We're not doing it. Not doing it. And she's like, okay, fine, whatever. So he's like, we're just going to go. We're going to check out how competitions work. We're just going to get our name out. And then in a couple of years, we'll come compete. They go to it. She bottles two bottles of stuff behind his back and churns it in. And so it's 14-month-old juice. And he ends up taking second place out of 172 entries in 4-year and younger category.
That's wild.
Which is crazy. And so he's been just kind of building from there. He's got a lot of double golds going on. He has the only triple double gold, so 3 years in a row of double gold absinthe in the world. So he actually makes the only platinum absinthe in the world, which is crazy because it's not a U.S.,
Yeah, no, not at all.
So, and the other thing about these guys, so they only produce, I believe it was 2 barrels a day of juice going in. He doesn't want to get any bigger. He doesn't want to sell out to like a Santorum or anything like that. He just wants to keep it a family deal. The biggest difference between them and anybody else is they grow all their own yeast as well, which I thought was pretty cool. So, but yeah, so this is the series 1, which is available only in the you can only get it from their store there at the distillery.
So, right, like it's an exclusive from the distillery.
Correct. Yep. So some of the other series they have, so this is the batch 1. I guess they're up to a batch 4 now, but they're either only available in the distillery or some of them are available like at Kentucky, like grown in Kentucky type stores, and that's why it's got this Hidden Barn Kentucky label, whatever. But this actual series is only available at the distillery.
Yeah, and I like the Hidden Barn. There's like a lot of story there, about hidden barns and then everybody making their own whiskey. So that's cool.
Yep. Yeah. So like I said, definitely go check it out. The story of this family is incredible. There's lots of violence involved with it. Let's just say they got.
I'm sure.
There's only one way to become the only distiller in a county that was a massive distillery in county in Kentucky back in the bootlegging days, and it was not handshakes, right? So, but yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I'm sure.
But yeah, I'm gonna leave it then. They tell the story a lot better than I do. So definitely, they are now officially on the Kentucky Bourbon Tour, like stops.
Very cool.
But it's definitely it's a smaller distillery, but the stories is fantastic, and I've kind of really started to like that about these smaller distilleries is the stories.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. Absolutely.
But I'm excited for you to taste it.
Yeah.
So
I haven't
you
opened it yet?
Oh, you haven't?
No.
Okay. All right.
No, I'm going to do this live.
Do it live.
Yep. You me trying to do a cork pop?
Yeah. Go ahead. Nothing.
It sounded incredible on my end. Yeah, there's a famous lady that is associated with this group. She came. Her first name's Jackie. I don't know her last name, but she came from Old Forester, and she was like the face of Old Forester, and then she just up and left, and she has something to do with this hidden barn. So super cool. I've read a little bit about this situation. I didn't know the Neely family story, but I knew that she was involved with them some shape, form, or fashion. So very cool.
All right, let's go to that nose.
It's got a nice color to it.
Yeah. Yep. And I don't know. I'm trying to see if it gives me a.
Yeah, I was going to ask, how do we know how old this is?
No.
Okay. I get a lot of ethanol, but once I get past that, I get like figs, like some dark fruit, like almost like some candied cherries. It's nice. I don't get a lot of oak, but I definitely get some of those dark fruits.
Yeah, I pick up those dark fruits. I pick up the rye spices from the rye in it on the nose.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So another thing that's
it's nice once I get past the ethanol.
Yeah.
Like the ethanol is kind of prominent to me, which would lead me to believe that it might be young. But I mean, that's just my fault on that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it can't be too terribly old they didn't get a license until 2015, so. So this won the double gold in San Francisco in 2023. So it would have been bottled in 23, but I don't know what the age of it is.
Well, it smells good. I like it.
All right. Well, cheers.
Yeah. Cheers. I get like brown sugar.
Yeah.
Maple syrup. Definitely still get some of the dark figs in there, almost like a fig Newton.
Yep.
I like the finish better than the initial. You know what I mean? Like I like the finish better than the start.
Okay.
If that makes sense to you. It's good.
Yeah, I get the to me this is a better second sip than first sip.
Yeah, absolutely.
I definitely get to me it does cling to the tongue pretty heavy.
Yep.
I get that, like I said, that dark fruit. I almost get a little toasted almond. But yeah, definitely more like you said, like that fig Newton-y. I mean, I'd almost call it thick in itself, you know.
Yeah.
So it's and then on the finish, I mean, it's like a medium finish. It's just kind of hangs out for a little bit, but it's kind of, to me, it hangs out more front of the tongue than back of the tongue.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Go back in for another sip on this.
Definitely get more oak on the second part. And it kind of dries my palate out a little bit.
Yep.
But the second sip is definitely more like inviting, I guess, than the first sip.
Yep. So I will go ahead and, since I know you just opened your bottle, and I opened mine a few weeks ago, had a pour out of it. I think that getting that neck pour out will make this bottle better for you.
Sure.
So the finish, it's oaky. I get just a little rise of that spice from the rye, but it's not much. It's pretty muted.
Right.
It's to me, it's a little different bourbon. I mean, as far as I don't get the real strong caramel and the real strong butterscotch, you know, it's a little different. It's smooth. I don't have any issues with any of that, but I like it because it's different. You know, it's not your standard.
Yeah.
So, all right. So what would you?
No, I agree. It's definitely very rounded. It's not very spiky when it comes to, you know, and I'm sure that has a lot to do with the mash bill. But yeah.
So what would you give it? What's your score?
I'm going to give it a 62.
62.
Yeah, I don't. I've gone on record saying I don't really care for the drying of the palate, but it's not terrible. But I mean, I like it. Don't get me wrong. Like it's good. It's just like you said, it's very different. It's not traditional vanilla, caramel, like those kind of traditional notes that you get from bourbon. So I do like it because it is different. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
So
good.
I was I
I
was
think
just
the proof is just right too. Sorry, I didn't mean to
oh no,
interrupt,
you're
but
good.
that was just hit me like because it's what 109. Is that what it was? 109.
Yeah,
It's hard to tell on mine.
it's 54 point six
109.
five. So
Yeah. For those of you in Austin, Texas, let's go
that's
dogs.
right. That's right.
um, yeah, and of course the Iowanians. Anyways, yeah, I think the proof is just right.
Yeah.
Like it's a sweet spot for the proof. Yeah.
Yep. Um yeah, I would give it a 70 just because I do like it's so different
Yeah.
without leaving the genre, if that makes sense. Um
Yeah. I get that.
And I do think I really like the story again too. Like you haven't been through the distillery like I have, and so like the story when you
Hmm.
know what this family's done to get to this point, and this is the youngest master distiller ever, right? In with competition, this guy is.
Hmm.
So he's got a lot of other stuff that's out, and they're starting to do statewide distribution in Kentucky, looking to get into bordering states. So hopefully soon we can start finding it, on shelves. Some of the other stuff. They got a bottled and bond that was really good.
Yep.
Their absinthe is really good.
I
Nate's got
really
a
want to try the absinthe. You kind of taught that up. I
yeah.
really want to try some
Well,
of that.
talk to my brother. He's got a bottle. So otherwise, but yeah, if you go to their you can go to their website. It's just Neely Family Distillery, Neely is Neely. And to kind of look at their stuff, they've got a lot of cool stuff. But it's definitely worth the visit. The story's really good, and I think they're going to have some cool. Once he gets the ability to have more age stuff coming out, I'm looking forward to see what comes.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
one other little side thing that's kind of cool is they do not have to move things throughout their ruck house because they utilize small ruck houses that are short.
Okay.
And so there's not a lot. They've got like I think there's every foot and a half up the wall. They've got thermometers, and there's not enough temperature variation to make it worthwhile to
Okay.
rotate.
So they're not tall.
No,
They're just
squat.
long.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Because that Buffalo Trace is the same way. Like Warehouse H, where Blanton's comes out of,
Mhm.
is not tall at all, but it's very long. But then you go to some of their other rick houses, and they're 6, 7 floors high. So
Yeah.
that's interesting because there is a lot of variation from top to bottom.
Yeah.
Um,
Yep.
so yeah,
And so, multiple
I like
reasons
it.
for doing that. One, and he's like, the biggest reason is we don't have to have manpower to move barrels around all day. And so, they want to
Yeah.
stay a micro distillery. I mean, which 2 barrels a day is not very big, And so,
No, not at all.
but they want to remain profitable. And so, yeah, it's like I said, it's a cool place. There's some other things that are kind of interesting. Like it's still built identical to the way their great grandparents did it. And so there's no 90-degree elbows in their still system. It's all pipes cut at
Okay.
45s and welded up and then
Yeah.
covered in oatmeal gum. And he's like, we don't know if a 90-degree fitting changes flavor, but we don't want to risk it. This is the way Grandpa always did it. This is the way we're always going to do it.
But they'll tell you like over in Scotland when they replace stills, they'll replace stills that'll have like dings and dents and all that, and over there, like when they get a brand new still in, they'll go and put the same dings and dents in it because they believe that it has an effect on the character of the whiskey.
Yeah.
The way the water like comes off the copper, so I get that, man.
Yep.
And then, you never know what kind of cosmic effect that not putting that dent in may have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but no, it's been there's a lot of cool stuff in it. So
Yeah,
it's
that's
definitely
awesome.
it's worth it. And the other thing too is you learn why you should always carry a backup gun. I'll let you go to the distillery and learn why, but there is a reason why you always carry 2 pistols, not one.
I got you.
So,
Okay.
but yeah, it's good stuff. But anyway, so we'll move on. Oh no, we got one. We got to do. So this is not a value bottle.
Okay.
But it's so my question to you is, what would you pay? And so remember the fact that you can only buy it in one location.
Sure.
So, but what would you consider a decent price for this?
All right. So let me tell you how it's going to work in my brain. So it is a higher proof, so that you have to account for that. Single barrel, there's some exclusivity there. So you have to account for that. Um, my bottle is signed. Thank you very much. I don't know if you necessarily account for that or not, but I'm thinking like $70. I think it's just right.
Okay. Okay, so you'd say $70. So you're pretty close. It was
Oh,
like,
really?
yeah, yeah. So I think it was 75.99. So I mean,
Oh,
you're right
wow.
there.
Okay.
Um, but I can't remember because like so basically the way it worked is I'm trying to remember what the original price was because we did the tour and all that, and there was like we bought enough stuff to kind of get a discount. So, but yeah, it was around that
Right.
that price whatever. So, um,
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's cool. I will say be careful with the signature. Mine I started to smudge off if you start handling the
Yeah.
signature too much.
I could.
Um,
Yeah.
so, but I hope you like it. I hope it's something you can add to your shelf
Yeah.
and you know. So, but now we're going to go through. So this would have not made. So we're at an average score of 62. So let's call it 67, 66. So it wouldn't be one of our top 10 so far. So what we'll do, Dwat, is we're going to start with number 10 and work our way up to number 1.
Okay.
What I'd like you to do is if you have not had, if it was one that you did not review with us, but you have had it,
Okay. Yep.
if you think that our score is too high or too low. And this is
Okay.
back from the day when it was, Rob and Ben and Dylan and I.
Yep.
So like Dylan's already going to give it 3 extra points. Like his score is going to raise it up. Let's just call it what it was.
Oh, man.
And then, but yeah, so we'll just kind of do that. And then I've got a few other, I got some non-bourbon related questions to kind of throw at you and
Okay.
pick your mind on.
All right.
All right. So
Yeah. Well, first of all, shout out again those guys, man. Like, I know they reviewed quite a few of these whiskeys on here, and man, just appreciate everything they did and kind of laid the pathway for me to step in. So just shout out those guys. Thank you. So number 10 is Blue Note UnCut.
that's right.
Is this something I sent you?
It is. Yep.
Okay, so there's just kind of a cool story. So Blue Note, um, and you can go back and look it up, but they had a rick house collapse due to a tornado, and the juice that came out of that store pick was tornado juice. And so that kind of story behind it is, of course, the tornado caused the rick house to collapse or whatever. And because there's so much structural integrity issues they were concerned about, the barrels just sat out there in the sun. And then they sat out, so they would get hotter than they normally would. And then they also went through a partial winter. So there's pictures with barrels that got snow on them, which again is unusual. And so it caused some wonderful whiskey to come out of this. So that's kind of those are tornado barrels. I've had several Blue Note uncut, unfiltered picks, and they've all just been really, really good. But I think the score is 73, and I feel good with that. Like, I think that's where it should be. I've had quite a few of these. I had one out of Florida that was possibly the best single barrel I've ever had. It was so good, and I have milked it for years because, of course, it's single barrel, so it's gone. And then I had one out of a store here in Central Georgia that was not too good. So, but overall, I think 73. I think I'm good with that number.
Okay. All right.
Let's see, number 9, Maker's Cask Strength.
So that's us. That was us together.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's us. And I do feel like I would maybe raise the value score a little bit looking back, only because it's a weeded cask strength bourbon,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. So I
And
mean,
so I do
you don't have a
think
lot of options
our
in that.
values, yeah, not a lot of options. Our value score is 57. We gave it a score of 74. The Blue Note was 73. So I would raise the value score on that just because I think that it's just a value that you can walk in almost anywhere and find a cask strength weeded bourbon. So yeah, I would definitely move that up. As far as the overall score, I think it's pretty good where it's
It's
at.
pretty good.
Yeah.
All right, so the next one
Yeah.
is near and dear to my
Oh,
heart.
I already know.
So we're going to do this one, and then we're going to take a break. But Old Forester 1920 comes in at number 10, 9, 8, right? And at 75 overall. I feel like I scored this way back. So this is the original Manhood Neat podcast episode is when we did this. The very first one out the gate. Back when we had no podcast equipment. We're sitting around a little like blue card table. But yeah, and we gave it ranked it out at 75. I think that I killed myself on it. I gave it a 75. Actually, that's what I gave it. Some guys were a little higher, some guys were a little lower. What do you think? I know you've had it. I mean, it's tried and true. Am I overselling 1920?
No. In fact, I think it is one of maybe 4 or 5 bourbons that I would consistently recommend to people. Just because it's just well done. It's a higher proof. So if you're trying to figure out, maybe you want to like dabble in something that's a little bit, higher proof, barrel proof or whatever, it's readily available. And it's really, really good for $60, man. What you're getting in that bottle, that score needs to be way higher.
Yeah. So what would
higher? Like I would go ahead.
I was gonna say, so it's 60. It's $59.99, right? So it's technically a value bottle. So we gotta give it a value score. To me, it's like an 83 value bottle because it drinks like a $120 bottle of bourbon.
Sure, and I go higher than that.
Okay,
and only because of the availability and the consistency in what you're getting from bottle to bottle. I'm probably in the 90s on value score. Okay. It's just you can't. Think about like there was this trend a couple years ago. It was like you got 5 bottles of bourbon, a daily sipper, and there's all these kind of different things. Like you could have this as your daily sipper. Like, and that's crazy to me because it's so available and it's so good. Yep. You've got the proof if you're looking for it, and if you're not so much a fan of the proof, you can put an ice cube in it and it'll still stand up to it, I just think that on the score, I would be probably closer to like 85 for me. So at least 10 points because y'all had it at a 75. And then when it goes to value, man, I'm in the 90s on this, dude. Like it's crazy that I can leave right now and go buy all the Old Forester 1920 I want, and nobody's going to say anything to me.
Yep.
I don't have to ask anybody, hey, what's the price on that behind the shelf? Like, well, it's just crazy.
Here's what's crazy to me is so, like you said, you're talking about, you can go buy it all day long. I've got a bottle of 18-year-old Elijah Craig sitting over here that's dog water compared to 1920, right? And and you can't like, oh yeah, we get 1 bottle a year of it into the store. Now you should get 0 bottles a year of it is what you should get. But it's just,
now to be fair to Elijah Craig, those are single barrels. So some of them are good. I've had 3 separate offerings of the 18-year-old Elijah Craig. They were all hot dog water. Yeah. In fact, I've got one in my cabinet behind me that I save just to give to people so they don't waste their money on it.
Which one is it?
It's the Elijah Craig.
No, you know what year? Which year's 18 year?
I don't. Hang on.
Yeah, this is great radio. This is Dwat going over to his cabinet. You guys can hear it. He's searching through. He's got it. He's coming back.
Sorry for the dead time. Did you make fun of me while I was gone?
I did. It works out.
Okay, that's fine. I'll listen for it, and then I'll text you when I listen to the episode. So it was bottled in 21.
Okay. So mine is
Did you see, like, there's
you got a little bit left. Yeah.
Yeah. But I save it. Again, I save it for people to try it because around here, what's the year on yours?
24.
Okay. Around here, this is $400. And that is a waste of $400. Oh. And I know that I just shot our Elijah Craig sponsorship into the ground.
Yeah.
So sorry about that.
I had been working on that for 2 years. It was almost coming to fruition. Sorry, you just killed it. Yeah. No.
Sorry.
Well, the thing is though, is like you can buy your standard Elijah Craig bottles, like your standard small batch rose. Yeah. They're not bad for the price. There's some decent bourbon.
No.
But I ain't paying.
And they've got store picks that are good.
Yeah.
like regular Elijah
Well,
Craig store picks that are fantastic.
just because it's older doesn't mean it's better. That's what I've learned.
I agree.
Right. All right.
I
So,
agree.
anyways, yeah,
All right, moving on.
1920. So just to
Yeah.
is number 10 is Blue Note UnCut at 73. Number 9, Maker's Mark Cask Strength at 74, and number 8 is Old Forester 1920 at a 75. Before we move on, Dwat, have you been paying attention to any of the stuff that's been going on in North Carolina in the last 3 weeks?
Yeah, man, it's
Crazy.
tough up there.
Yeah. So my question is not. I don't want to get into government conspiracy theories and all that because we still have to get through the rest of this list. But has what's been going on up there made you think about like you and your family's personal like preparedness status at all? And have you made any changes, purchases, or reevaluations of plans in the lieu of what's going on up there?
Yes. Yeah, like I haven't run out and bought a generator or anything. But as far as like preparedness when it comes to like food essentials, it definitely made me kind of recalculate some things. So yeah, like and I feel weird to admit this, but I don't own a chainsaw. Like I did at one point, but I don't now. And so like I would have to call somebody. And we don't have any trees like on our property, but everybody around us has these just giant old pine trees, So I think that, it definitely made me like push pause and step back and go, okay, like if I'm responsible for this family and this household, like where are my misses? And, like I definitely had some misses, like I think, like I've got a strap for my truck. So like if I needed to, I guess maybe pull something out of the way, like let's say I don't have a chainsaw, but I could pull a tree out of the way. Like I'm definitely prepared for that. But it was terrible. But I also think I'm not sure what level of preparedness you could have been and still made it through what those folks in North Carolina went through.
Oh yeah, I 100% agree with that. So the split second like all in prepper guy decision I made is I actually went out and bought multiple Bufang UV5Rs, right? Like ham radios. And totally dived into the ham radio ecosphere with minus getting my license. So do not broadcast on them, or I don't think that's the right term. I think they use something else. But I do listen. But I started listening to. Sorry about that. Listening to the ham radio coming out of Mount Mitchell right afterwards, and the work that was being done by these radio guys, because there's no cell phone, there's no internet, and it was literally just ham radio guys bringing information. To this day, a lot of these places, that's the only communication. So that was the one thing I did. And then because I'm a nerd, as soon as I got it, started upgrading antennas, looking at different frequencies, that kind of stuff. So that's the one thing I did.
Yeah, the only other thing that it made me watching this North Carolina thing, the only other thing that it really made me think that I really needed in a skill set that I'm lacking is I can't fly a helicopter.
Get to work on that.
You know what I mean?
Get to work on that.
Yeah. But it's funny, like, so, kind of back to work, like our Super Bowl just left, right? Well, we had a helicopter detached to us during our event, and I'm not built for helicopters, bro. Like I'm too big. And so
you just need a bigger helicopter.
I told him, so we went up in the helicopter several times for our event. And the first night we went in, my leg was leaned up against the tiller. Maybe
cyclic?
Is what it's called. It's what is it?
The cyclic? The thing that you raise it up to go up and down?
Yes.
Yeah, it's a cyclic. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. So my leg was like leaned on that, and the pilot looked at me and he was like, "Hey, buddy, this ain't gonna work." I said, "Can you bring a bigger helicopter next time?" He just laughed at. But yeah, watching those citizens come together and just support that mission, like that was so cool, man. And then I saw some people that didn't have helicopters, and didn't know how to fly, but they were buying jet fuel, you know? And I thought, man, that's so
Yeah.
cool. Like what, you know, and I make the joke about the helicopter. Like I do think it would be cool to learn how to fly a helicopter. That I am like kind of fascinated by helicopters, but the fact that they were like, hey, I don't have that skill set, but I can still be an asset, you know?
Yeah.
And so I really, I appreciated that.
So I know that I
Yeah.
was listening to a guy and they got up there and they were part of, what is it? Is it air rescue? It's some, you know, like basically what they work on is they're a bunch of, it's a ministry to veterans, but it also like they go out and rescue people. Nonprofit. Sorry, that bronchitis is killing me. Ain't nobody got time for that.
Yeah.
But
Just drink some more whiskey.
yeah, they were burning $8,000 a day of fuel.
Yes. 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 I saw those. I was watching guys like do you know who Cletus McFarlane is?
Yeah.
He's got a YouTube. They do like builds. You know, they do these kind of crazy builds. Like he was flying. There was another guy named like Heavy D. That's his YouTube channel, Dave Sparks. Like he's got a helicopter. I mean, they were flying. I was kind of like following them on Twitter and YouTube and stuff. Like, I mean, I saw the amount of money that they were spending out of their own pocket to go up there and help people. And the stories that they were coming back with, you know, like kids walking around, like looking for their parents, like they're tough stories, man.
Yeah.
And they're stories that aren't getting out, that need to get out because, and again, I don't want to go down this rabbit trail. I'm gonna say this and we can move on, but they dropped the ball up there.
Oh yeah.
Big time.
Yep.
On an emergency management response, they dropped the ball.
Bad.
And that's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah.
So
no, the cool thing coming out of it, like, I mean, it's you got to look for the silver lining, right? But
right.
I'd never heard of the Cajun Navy. What those guys do is ridiculous, right?
Yes, the boats,
and then they brought in mules. They had mules taking stuff in. Plus they had 50 helicopters. So that was crazy. And then the other thing is just I saw this video. It was what's the name? It's the lady from. It's another YouTube channel where they go in and like people that get stuck out in the middle of nowhere. They go in and like
do recoveries.
Do recoveries.
Yeah.
So they're going up and they go to some place that needed help, no contact. They get there and it's this guy and he's sitting there and he's in his overalls, whatever, some Appalachian guy. And she's like, what is it you need? And he's like, ma'am, if you could just tell me what I need to do to get, he said some lady's name, to notice me, that would be great.
Oh my gosh.
Because I've cooked for her. I invited her and her family over. I put on new coveralls. I shaved. I don't know what this lady needs to see that I'm interested in her. But I'm into, and the lady just starts dying laughing and he's like, oh, my house, I can fix that. I can build a new house, but I got to get this girl to notice me, But that, and then there's another one I saw where it's a guy and he's looking over his field and it's just dirt. And like you can see just 4 inches of corn, but it's the tassel, right? Like the whole field's gone. It's just buried in dirt.
Right.
And the guy's like, yep, that used to be the cornfield. I guess ain't gonna be much of a harvest this year. And they're like, oh, and then he turns around and goes, but I got a question for you guys. Do you know Jesus?
Shoot, yeah, man.
Yeah, and I'm like, yes, like that's, yeah, And so there's some cool stuff coming out of there. All right, so we'll move on to number 7.
Yeah, the next one is 1792 Cask Strength. This is a
Yes.
Bardstown product. I think this is a sleeper. On my end, they do some Cask Strength, and they actually call it Foolproof is the official name of it. And the reason they call it Foolproof is because it goes into the barrel at 125, I believe, because it can't, by law, it can't go into the barrel at a higher proof than that. But it also comes out of the barrel at that proof, or they water it down. They kind of dilute it down to this. So 1792 Foolproof. I've had regular, I've had store picks, hadn't had a bad one. I think that you're getting a nice Cask Strength Foolproof whiskey for $60. Do you remember what you paid for this? It's $59.99.
I don't. I did not bring that. I think that Lewis or Rob bought that one. So
yeah. I feel comfortable. It's at a 77. I feel comfortable there. But if it was like 80, I'd be okay with that too. Like I think this is a really, if you see one now, look, some stores will try to knock your head off over this, and they'll charge you crazy secondary prices. Don't pay them, because there are stores out there where you can get this for, $60, and I feel comfortable where it's at, but it wouldn't hurt my feelings if it was higher. With it being $60, the last one that I bought was $60. That puts it into the value category.
Yeah.
Do you have a thought on that?
Yeah. My thought, if it's still that price, I haven't priced it in a while.
Sure.
It should be probably a 90 on the value score there, because it's yeah. I mean, obviously, it's one of our highest ratings ever. We've gone through quite a few bourbons in this experiment, and yeah, like it's and again, like, I guess if there's any new listeners here, just need to reiterate as we're going through these top 10 that we score off of 50 being an average. So don't think of don't try to compare our scores to like something you see in a magazine or something like that. It's a different scoring ratio. Ours is 0 to 100, right. 50 being an average. So a 50 score is not bad. It's just average, so it's like getting a 70 in high school. You're okay, still passing, right? D's to get degrees. But
that's right.
So a 77, like we're 27 points above average. Like we're cooking with gas here.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think for $60, that's a hard beat.
And I think out of looking at this list, outside of 1920 and Makers, this is probably going to be the third most readily available. I think Old Forester and the Makers Cask are going to be 1 and 2, and they're really like 1 and 1 because you get them everywhere. But I think this is probably going to be the next most readily available. 1792 makes a small batch. It's got like a burgundy kind of band on all the bottles are the same. They just have different bands. They make a bottled in bond that's got a yellow band, and then this is a black one. And then they make a sweet wheat, which is hard to find, and they make a 12-year, which is hard to find. And when you find it, they want to knock your head off over it. So yeah, this is good. I think this is something that you should look for. It's worth the price of admission. So let's see next. So this is what 10, 9, 8, 7, number 6, Smooth Ambler Old Scout. I've had this as well. And I feel good. The score is 78 on it, and I'm good with that. I want to say that it was under $60.
It is
when I bought it. It's a low proof. It's not a higher proof, I think.
No, and that's so
most of these are high proof.
Yeah.
This is not this is a lower proof. Do you remember what it is off the top of your head?
No, I don't.
I mean, I can look it up.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Talking about it.
I remember I scored so I brought this score down, right? Out of the group. And to me that just shows that if you're not a proof snob, this is phenomenal bourbon, right? And so I need to go back and listen to the episode and remember what I said about it, because I haven't had it since we reviewed it.
Yeah. $35 is what it's showing on Hops and Grains.
It's nothing.
That's a great that's a great price.
So everybody loved it. I mean, obviously I didn't score it terribly low, otherwise it would not still be a 78.
Right.
I need to go back and revisit this one. But yeah, definitely. I mean, it scored where it did for a reason. I remember all the guys just raving about it.
Yeah.
And so, do I think it's better than Old Forester 1920? No, I do not. But apparently, other people whose opinions mattered just as much as mine in the vote did. And so, yeah. So that tells you something, And I think that's one thing I liked about having. Not that I dislike having you, Dwat, but you and I have a similar thing we're looking for in a bourbon, right?
That's right. Our palates are very similar.
Yeah. And so, whereas before with the Nebraska guys, we had just a more diverse package of palates. And by diverse, I mean,
but you also had a different variety of whiskey drinkers, right?
Right. Just
like you would consider yourself like a seasoned whiskey drinker, right?
Yeah.
I would consider myself that as well. But with some of those guys in Nebraska, like they were just kind of getting into it. Is that fair to
Yeah,
say?
like I mean, and some guys had drank a whiskey for a while, but it's like this if they not like they would like have a lot of whiskey, but if they had a whiskey, this is what I bought, right?
Right.
And then you had other guys like like Dylan is just like, oh yeah, I'll try it. Let's go.
Yeah. It's not Tito's tonight, boys. We're
Yeah,
drinking whiskey. All right, cool. Like,
yeah, and so yeah, it's definitely a much more, just different levels of experience with bourbon. And
yeah,
so
I
it's a lot
get
different.
that.
And some of these guys, and they love this stuff. And so I think that what I would say based on my recollection of it, and because what I scored it is, if you're looking for a bourbon that will show the next path forward, and it's not going to, if you're an experienced guy, you'll still enjoy it. But if it wanted to open the eyes of a deeper flavor profile to newer drinkers, this is a good place to go without ramping up the proof and getting outside of their comfort zone.
Yeah, I think that's very well said. Because this is going to get you past Jack Daniels, Jim Beam, Wild Turkey 101, Evan Williams, kind of your main five really brands and kind of staples. I think that was very well said, Aaron. This is a nice kind of next step that'll help you understand that there are some levels to this and that there's some differences. And yeah, I think that's very well said. All right. Next is Booker's. This is the Storytellers batch, right? This was something that I sent you. We've got it on the score as an 81. It is not a value score. I've had quite a bit of Bookers. This is one of my favorite batches of Bookers. I think they hit a home run on this, and I doubt I'll find it, but I'm actively looking for another one because I think it's so good. Yeah.
Yeah, and we said it's worth, if you can find it for $107, it's what it's worth. But if you can find it for $110, pull the trigger.
Yeah, and that's of course they release new. We talked about this. You can go back and look at the old, listen to the old episode. But they release Bookers every year. They do them in batches 1, 2, 3, 4. They all have names and stories associated with them. So Storytellers batch is what this one is called. Bookers at one point was $70-$80, and now you're gonna pay $100 for Bookers. So like it, love it. Doesn't matter, what you think. That's just kind of where the market is right now. And I think it's worth it. Again, I think this is one of the better batches of Bookers that I've ever had. Now, there's some really famous Bookers that's, I think, like 17, 18, 19 that, people will lose their mind over. Of course, you'll never see those. You'll find them in somebody's cabinet, hidden, tucked away in a corner because they're so special. There was a couple years where Bookers released some dog water, man. I think they released it just to release it. It was weird. But I think Storytellers really got them back on track and really, really was the shining star of the 23, 24 release, whatever year release it was. So, yeah, I feel good at 81 with it. Yeah, I'm good with that.
All right. So, reviewing back, number 10, Blue Note Uncut, 73. Maker's Cask Strength, 74. Old Forester 1920, 75. 1792 Cask Strength, 77. Smooth Ambler Old Scout, 78. Booker Storyteller, 81. Sorry. All right.
All right.
Next big question.
Next one is
no. We got to go to another question.
Sorry.
Yeah, you're trying to get out of here quick. So my next question is there any silly firearm that has been just on your mind as of late that you want to buy, or a type of firearm? It might not be a singular one.
Okay, so silly, I think, is relative in two terms. And let me give it to you, and because I have one for each.
Okay.
All right. So silly, as in like this is dumb, like stupid, but it's just be fun to have. And then I look at silly as in cost. Like I can't believe a gun is going to cost this much. So I have answers for both of those. The first one is going to be the P90 or the FN57.
Okay.
Uses the same round. Of course, one is like a submachine gun. The other one is a pistol. And it's silly because the round is silly, but they're just fun. Like I've shot a P90. It was the semi-auto P90. And it's just fun to shoot. Like I've never shot the FN57 pistol. I've watched enough videos about it and stuff that I think it would be a lot of fun to shoot, but it's not practical at all.
No.
And that's what makes it silly. Okay. So I give you both of those, but really it's the 5.7 round. Okay. My silly like price is like a really, really fancy over and under shotgun.
Oh, like a
A buddy of mine.
Do you want to
Like a
go
what?
old school? Like you want an old one, or do you want a new silly
No.
one? Okay.
Like a buddy of mine is really, really into shooting clays, and he has a really nice over and under Beretta that costs several bands, as the kids say. Are you familiar with bands?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Costed several of those, and I've never shot it. He let me hold it, and it was like, okay, well, I mean, his money's different than my money. You know what I mean? So, so when you talk about silly firearms, I have those are my answers. A really, really high end, really nice shotgun, to shoot clays. I don't do a lot of turkey hunting, but I do like to shoot clays, and so or shoot doves. I like shooting birds, and then the 5.7, the P90, or
Just because it's
the 5.7
the round.
pistol.
Yeah.
It's the round, man. It's a silly round, and it's a, ballistically, it's a round. Like it's a hot round. It'll go through a lot of body armor. I've done some reading on it. So yeah.
Yeah. So mine's a little different take on the question, but that's why I didn't want to like categorize it, because I want to see where you'd go with it. So
We've already experienced that in our 5 things.
That's right.
I
exactly.
think that's what makes us good.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So I was another thing I did in prepping after the whole North Carolina thing is I bought the Bufangs, but I also just went through my ammo stockpile and resupplied it.
Sure.
Sorry. And one of the things that I found is I'm like, hey, I've got 2,000 rounds of 22 mag. I don't own a 22 mag anymore. This is silly, right?
Did you buy a 22 mag?
Not yet. So I've been trying to figure out, what do you want to do with 22 mag? And feel the air real quick.
I've shot some really fun 22 mags. I've shot some suppressed 22 mags. I think it's a super fun round to shoot. And I have shot a precision 22 mag. Talk about fun. Oh my gosh. Like it had a big, like heavy bull barrel, had a really nice scope on it. It was actually when I was on the SWAT team, and our snipers carried it. So if we had like a barricade or hostage situation, they would use the 22 and shoot out the street lights. So yeah, it's super fun to shoot. Like I said, it's a precision weapon, and you can stack them like on top of each other. That's how precise it is. So yeah. I like that.
So I've been kind of looking at two different things. One is, so I got a very limited budget.
Sure.
So one I've been looking at is a Savage 93 Minimalist. So that's like got the carved out stock where they carve out the extra wood and all that.
Yep.
It's got threaded barrel, so if I ever want to throw a suppressor on it, I could, or a compensator. Which
or potato.
Was a potato? Yeah.
Yeah. Homemade suppressor.
But yeah, so I'm looking at that, and it moves you from a 5 round to a 10 round mag, which is, whatever, for bolt action is kind of fun. So I'm looking at that. The other thing I'm looking at is a Smith & Wesson has a 22 mag ultralight revolver. It's an aluminum frame. It's super light. I think it holds 10 in the cylinder. But I thought for like a backpacking gun, it's super light. Throw it in the chest rig. You're not feeling the weight. But yeah, those are the two. Do they serve an actual purpose in my tool system? No. That's
absolutely not.
No. My tool system is, I've got a 12 gauge for a reason. I've got an AR for a reason, or ARs for a reason, 9mm for a reason, and I have a 308 for a reason, right? But which somebody told me I should just sell that ammo. No, that's never the right answer. The right answer is always to buy a gun to use the ammo.
Hey, you buy a gun that fits the round. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, but yeah, so I'm leaning towards the Savage 93, because you're talking $300 for the rifle. Throw a $100, cheap rimfire optic on it. And my thought is I can move Kanan from, which he's in the pellet rifle now, and off our back porch, we can move into 22 long rifle, which I've already got a Savage 93 22 LR. that's iron sights, and then we can move into optics with the 22 mag 93 minimalist. So it's kind of where I'm leaning. It's silly, but I think it'd be fun. And then, worst comes to worst, we can shoot some squirrels and some bunnies with it and eat supper. So
22s are fun to shoot, man. So,
yeah. Yep.
Good question.
All right. So next would be number 5, I guess.
5 or 4?
5.
Math is hard.
Is it 5?
No, we did Booker's already.
So is that 5? 4, 3, 2. Oh yeah, you're right. Okay. So for number 4 is George Dicke Bottled and Bond number 3.
I have a lot of feelings about George Dicke.
Yeah, I know you do.
Yeah.
So I don't remember the year on this, but I do know that the year of this bottle.
This was the first one. I sent this to you.
No.
Yeah. No.
You sent us one, but it was not this one. You sent us I think it was like a Dicke 8 year.
That was the bourbon.
Yes.
This is the bottle of Mon. Okay.
Yeah. So this is the one that won Whiskey of the Year.
It did, and I don't know how. I don't know how. So we're talking kind of around it, but George Dicke, they're in this specific valley in Tennessee. They use this water that comes out of this valley. They're the only ones to use it. And there is a minerality in this water. And either you get it or you don't. And if you get it, it tastes like Flintstone vitamin. And so I get it. I have the palate for it. I don't know what it is, but George Dicke, I can't, I get caramel, vanilla, I get some of kind of the fun stuff, and then it just goes straight to Flintstone's vitamins on my palate and ruins it. It's to the point, and Dicke is a mass producer. Don't trip on that. They make a lot of whiskey and they sell it. It's to the point that I can taste it in blends.
Oh, really?
That's how bad it is. Oh yeah. Yeah. It's tough, man. And
so you would not agree with our 82 overall on this?
Lord, no.
So I wonder, it makes me question what percentage of the population has this ailment where they taste Flintstone vitamins from this minerality, right? Because we had
ailment.
There was 5 of us that drank it and we all loved it.
I don't know. I've had George Dicke before. They do some private select. They do barrel picks. They have a 17-year-old Dicke that you can buy. It's like $60. I've had it. 15. They do make a 17-year-old Dicke that's a distillery exclusive. I've had it as well, and it just doesn't matter how old it is. Like the old Dicke that I had, the 17-year-old, it got really oaky and then tasted like an old Flintstone vitamin.
Have you ever drank Dicke with somebody who does not have the ailment?
Yeah.
And they're like,
sergeant.
Okay. And they're like, nope, this tastes fine. And you're like, no, it tastes like
he loves George Dicke.
That's funny.
In fact, we bought when he made lieutenant. This was after I left. When he made lieutenant, I found a bottle of because his shift was he and I are obviously close. They reached out to me and they were like, Dwat, we got to get Sarge something. We want to get him this, this, and this. And they were like, what do you think? And I said, well, I actually ran across a bottle of the 17-year-old that wasn't at the distillery. So they all chipped in. They raised as much money as they could. I paid for the rest of it. And then we gave it to him. And he cracked it open right there and passed it around to a couple of us. And it was just old. And, of course, everybody else in the room, it's like, man, this is pretty good, and it's a higher proof. It wasn't barrel proof, but it might have been in the hundreds. I don't know. And I was like, wow, Sarge, this is good. It tastes like old Flintstone vitamins. I don't know. It's just me.
It's an ailment.
I don't know. And I think out of all my other whiskey drinking friends, I might be the only one that gets the vitamin, the minerality.
Yeah. Well, it's got to be a small percentage of the population. Otherwise, Dicke would not still exist, right? So.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But
so we got the 82. Yeah. So, and Dwat disagrees, but that whiskey won Whiskey of the Year. Therefore, most people agree. Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like it's unfair for Dicke because it's not that their juice is bad. It's just something in the water that just throws me off, So.
All right. The next one.
All right. Number 3.
Yeah.
Number 3, Michers Rye Barrel Strength. And we've got it at 83.
83. And I agree all day long. Yeah, that was.
I do. It's it's good. It's really good.
So is this? I'm trying to
Um,
think. This is our first non-bourbon on the list for the top 10.
that's right.
Yep.
Yep, that's right. Yeah, it's just good. Like it's hard to find, and if you do find it, it's allocated. So I saw one here in town a couple months ago, and I asked the guy how much he wanted for it, and he told me $2.99. Silly, just absolutely silly. It's not $2.99 worth. It's not $2.99 juice. You're paying for business decisions, is what you're paying for.
Yeah, and so one thing that is I am excited about is the bourbon boom is ending. And
yes.
So all these allocated people got it hidden on the shelf because they think it's worth $1,000. Nope, you missed your moment. The prices are coming back down. And which is gonna be good for those of us who enjoy the drink. But there's also a lot of states.
Go ahead.
I said like that's why I'm thankful I live in a state where you cannot do that, right? Like you're allowed to charge a certain percentage over MSRP, and that's it. Like, I don't care what the secondhand market is. Now it goes quick, Like I can talk about the story about how I had some this year's Coy Hill lined up, and some lady came in and stole it from me because the person who works at the store, their part-time person, didn't want to listen to the manager. But anyways, but yeah,
he's not bitter about that at all.
No, the price is the price, right? So,
like Alabama is state-controlled liquor prices. North Carolina is state-controlled. Georgia is not. So
and Tennessee's weird because we're not like Alabama where the state buys all the liquor, but we have you can only charge what the manufacturer put in. And actually, what's funny is that it falls into the same rule as everything, right? So like a car dealership can only charge a certain percentage above MSRP on a vehicle, and so it's the same rule for liquor. It's not like it's isolated just for alcohol. It's
and don't get it twisted. Though their hustle is different than our hustle. To where like I can go to 3 stores here in town and see last year's Pappy Van Winkle drop because they've got it charged, they've got it, overpriced so much, right? But that doesn't fix it because in Alabama and North Carolina, you have to pick the right store for the right drop. So they know, so Pappy and BTAC and all those kind of really high-end, highly sought-after whiskeys always drop at the end of the year, right? November, December. Well, those guys are sitting out in front of store, Alabama, liquor store number 26, hoping that their buddy who got the intel that there's supposed to be some Pappy Van Winkle at this store, so their struggle, they're still hustling.
Oh yeah.
But like, it's just a different hustle, so that's all it is. But yes. And now what I was going to say was I read a report. It was on, my Apple News that talked about Diageo, who owns quite a few liquor brands, is going to show a 26% fourth quarter loss.
Ooh.
Yes. Which is crazy. I mean, it helps me and you because like we like whiskey. So like, the prices are going to come on down. But yeah, man, I couldn't believe I read that 26%, man. People lose their job for that kind of loss.
Yeah. Well,
kind of profit loss.
You've created this, this push towards making things exclusive, right? So like, I want to, it's the FOMO, right? And so, but then what we've happened is the economy's gotten to the point where people don't care about FOMO anymore. They just like worry about surviving. And so there's still a lot of whiskey drinkers out there, but they're like, you know what? Like the legacy brands are starting to just recoup their old customers because they're like, hey man, Wild Turkey 101 is $30. I'm going to buy a fifth. I'm good for the week, right? And
that's right.
I'm not for alcoholism or by any stretch of imagination, but that's it drives and so people have gone back to that where they're like, hey, I want to have a bottle in the house. I'm not like I can't afford to buy top shelf. So I'm not even looking anymore. And so the interest is lost. And it's not because there's nobody drinking bourbon or whiskey. It's because people are struggling so much. Like I don't even want to dabble into the new cool stuff because I know I can't afford it. And all I'm going to do is break my heart, right? It's kind of like me looking at guns. Like there's a lot of I started looking at 22 mag rifles. When it comes to 22 mag precision rifles, you can drop like $2,000 all day long
Oh,
on this stuff.
oh
And
yeah.
I'm like, nope. Like, so I had to go ahead and set my filter, $300 and below. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
There's this, there's that, And
Yeah.
so it's the idea of where we are. And so I think that we're seeing the all the different manufacturers have to come back to where the customers are. And the customers are
Yep.
hurting, right? I mean, and so
Yeah.
I think we'll see prices come
Yeah.
back. I do think we'll see some of the ultra cool, like, I mean, I had a bottle the other day of Angel Envy triple cask.
Yeah.
Don't buy it. Don't spend the money on it. But like all that kind of, all this kind of weird, how many times can we cast them is going to go away. And it's going to get back to just pure juice, aged, what's good. And the stuff that's super hard to get, it's going to become more expensive. It's going to be for the elite. But I think that overall it's going to be good because there's a lot of good juice out there that just needs to be put in a bottle and sold.
Big time.
And so, anyways, let's go to number 2. ASW Optic Promise. We gave this an 84. I think this is like one of the first ones we reviewed together.
Yeah, this is an American single malt as well.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Yep. 84. So, we have it's worth about $115 if you can find it. So, and actually, if you go down, I'm going to try to release the whole list, like so 1 through whatever of what we've on when we dropped this podcast. So if you look in the notes, I'll have the whole list of where everything lines up. I won't drop this list every time, but every time we do one of these top 10s, I'll drop the whole list. And if anybody wants it at any given time, you can just email me too. But but ASW is going to show up a lot in the top half. They don't really fail, but this Optic Promise was very good. It was 84 overall. It's American single malt. Good luck finding it today, I guess.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I thought I had a lead on one the other day from ASW. The guy, I went in there and asked specifically, like, hey, do you have any Optic Promise? He was like, man, I might have 2 in the back. And I was like, well, I want them both because not that it matters now, but I was going to tuck one away for you. And he came back and he was like, sorry, man. He was like, I don't know what happened to him. And I was like, I know what happened to him. Y'all drank them. That's why I'm trying to get here and buy one because I want to drink it too. Super fun. They do another one called Space Hide, like Space Hide, 2 different words.
Yeah.
But it's a play on words because of Space Side, which is like a Scotch, right? It's a region. Space Side Scotch is a thing. Anyways, it's good. I've got one that I've got. The guy kind of gave me like a peace offer and he's like, hey, I don't have any Optic Promise, but here's some Space Hide. So I bought it. It is what it is. It's good. But yeah, Optic Promise, man. Just go back and listen to the episode, but the kind of too long don't read it was a birthday present from my wife when I turned 40. And man, I'm always on the hunt for some Optic Promise. No doubt.
All right.
I feel good where it's at score wise. I don't think I would change it. Yeah.
Yep. So it's an 84 overall. All right. Before we go to the number 1, which everybody's, I'm sure they're on pins and needles for. I got one last side question for you.
Okay.
So I heard a thing today, not today, last week, that the biggest issue with Big E or Big Eva in the United States, so Big Eva, Big Evangelical Church, is that we have taken commandment number 2, which of the new commandments, which is love your neighbor as yourself, and escalated it above the first commandment, which is to love your God with all your whole heart, soul, mind, and strength, right? So do you agree or disagree? And then this part B is the biggest problem with the church and why America is where it's at is because we have done part A.
Yeah. Yes. And yes. I think that I watched a video the other day where a guy was trying to do some like exegesis on like some like on some scripture, and in the scripture he tells the guy like Paul was wrong. Paul didn't mean this. Paul was actually confused, and I'm thinking to myself,
what?
Are you kidding me? Wait, what? And that was kind of the same reaction that the guy doing the interview had, was like, what do you mean Paul was wrong? And of course, this guy goes off on this like left-hand turn and he starts talking about all this crazy stuff. So, I mean, the answer is yes, because we've gotten into, well, like there's just not a line. We feel like we can just cross whatever line now and we can say, oh, well, Paul was wrong and Jesus didn't really mean this. Well, no, that's not what 2,000 years worth of, research and study has shown, is that what Paul is saying, even when you go back to the Greek, is like, that's exactly what he meant,
Yeah.
And so we've gotten into this, well, I feel a certain way, or I think, right? And even like I'm even in this podcast in this moment, you'll hear me say a lot of times like I think, right? But ultimately, like that thought should lead the listener back to scripture.
Yeah.
And so I think that we have gotten way off course in thinking that we know what's best, and that we think this, and so it must be right. It makes me, I feel a certain way. And so that makes me think that I'm actually right on this. And it just, man, it's really gotten off track. I followed this account on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, called Protestia.
Oh yeah.
And are you familiar?
Yeah, I follow
It's
it.
a really good follow, in the fact that it really shows you like what some of these churches are doing and saying from the pulpit, and there's just no accountability.
No.
There's no accountability, and it gets to the point where they can just say what they want. I mean, I watched a video where somebody sang "Fast Car." The song by Tracy Chapman
Yeah.
that like Luke Combs covered and that, recently.
I hate that cover, but I know the song.
Right. But they sang that as from like a worship leader sang that and was like, this is how, this is how our relationship with Jesus is really meant to play out. And I was like, wait, what? And of course, Protestia, like they go in, and I may be saying that wrong, but like they go in and just destroy this pastor and this worship leader. And so it really has gone to, I feel good about this, and there's no accountability. There's no discipline. There's no one holding our feet to the fire and going, no, you are wrong on this, so.
Yep.
Yes. No. And yes,
I 100% agree. I think that the whole, the big push of we are to love our neighbors ourselves, but love does not mean that they feel great about where they're at. The reason I brought this up is, so there was a church that is a multi-campus church, which is to me already an issue. But that the one campus put out a thing about, I don't remember what state this is in. It's either Oklahoma or Texas. But it basically like, remember to vote no on proposition blah blah blah, right? And it was a abortion proposition that was being added on to the election. And so, do I think that a church should ever say, if you don't vote, like you have to vote for so and so? No, that's incorrect. But there are certain like votes, as people that we do, that we have. It's an obvious yes or no. Like, should we allow abortion? Yes or no? No. The Christian aspect is no. Sorry. Like, there's no wavering there. That this is the answer. And so that is one of these type propositions. And the head pastor was like, nope, take those signs down, because those signs might make somebody not want to come to our church. And we need the lost to come to our church. And I'm like, dude, like, and the lady who put it, she was like the church secretary or the campus secretary, and her husband was like a deacon. Like, we're done, we're out. And I'm like, yeah, you should be, because like the gospel is one, it's confrontational. Like, there's confrontation in it. Like, that's Christ comes to separate bone from marrow. Like, that's not a non-confrontational thing. And
chaff from wheat.
Yeah, and who are you or I to tell the Holy Spirit what it can and cannot overcome, right?
Yeah.
And so if the gospel, and so I got that aspect of it, and then I think that we put this being kind and loving to our neighbors over honoring God for who He is. And I don't think that Donald Trump or the Republican Party is the answer to what ails this country. I don't think of any of these things. And so the answer to the culture is the church. And the church has sucked for a long, long time in this country. And so do I think that voting for Donald Trump might give us a little more time for the church to fix itself? I do, right? Well, I
Yeah.
tell a Christian that if you don't vote for Donald Trump, you're not a Christian. No, can't do that. Now, if a Christian's like, I'm voting for Kamala Harris, I'll be like, I need some answers, So to me, it's like, I can understand a no vote. I can understand for a write-in. But the problem is the church has stopped being the church. And just like we, as people who go to church, say, well, I pay my tithe. It's not my job to evangelize. It's the pastor's job. I think we put the same thing onto. It's not my job to worry about the political problems of the area. It's the president's or whoever I vote for's job or whatever. And so I think that it just funnels down, and we've gotten it's so messed up that like I had somebody the other day who's like, because I to full transparency for this episode, whatever. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do come election day yet. I have a hard time voting for Trump because of how he lines up on abortion, for the fact his unrepentance of lockdowns and the jab and the mandates and all that kind of stuff, and a myriad of other things. So I don't know what I'm going to do come election day. But my problem is when someone says, well, then you're like, I've had people, who I know pretty close go like, well, if you don't do this, you're part of the problem and you're not a Christian. Okay. How many school board meetings have you showed up to?
That's right.
How many, like, what do you do in the local community where we actually have dominion? What do you actually show up to? And so this, but it goes back to this idea of like, well, I don't want to do that because I might offend my neighbor. And if I offend them, how can I reach them for the gospel? Who are you to say what the gospel can and can't do? And so that's kind of where
I've talked to a lot of people who have decided that they're just not going to vote. And like, I can see that, I feel like it's kind of a cop out. But I've talked to quite a few people who just said, I'm not voting. Like, they're with you. Like, I don't agree with her terms. I don't agree with his stuff. I don't agree with his stance on abortion. It's no better than hers. And so it's just like, they're just not going to vote. They're going to vote for all the other local stuff, which I think is important, definitely. But there's just no good, clear standout. So yeah, I can understand that.
Yeah, and I talked to my daughter about this because she's got friends whose parents are hyper Trump fans, and I'll say, I will not sit here and tell anybody if you vote for Trump, that's not a Christian move. I can't say that,
That's right. Yeah.
And so the question is where does your hope lie, right? And so who are you looking to? And so if you feel led like this is okay, do it. Like, great. I worry about the idolization on either side. I worry about, and all these things, but I think that my dominion's a very real thing, and God has given all of us aspects of dominion. So where we have that, we need to utilize it and utilize the power that we hold. And so we all hold power at different levels. But I do think that this idea that we have to make sure the church looks kinder than God, for lack of a better word, is incorrect. And it's something that we have to fight against, because it's been the last 30 years of teaching from Big Eva, right?
Yeah, and it's bad theology.
It's terrible theology. It's terrible. Yeah. And so, like, God, like, the confrontation of truth versus wickedness is what brings repentance. And so we leave it up to the Holy Spirit, but we can never water down truth to reach more people. It's
kind of like mercy and judgment. Like, everybody wants to champion mercy, which it deserves to be held in high esteem, but mercy is only good because judgment is equally as important.
Yeah. Yep. I saw somebody the other day, there was some conversation going back and forth. I can't remember who it was. It might have been Allie Beth Stuckey and somebody else on the Twitterverse. But their final response was, well, I can't wait for Christ to come back so you can learn what empathy is. And I'm like, like, when Christ comes back, he's not really coming back in empathy. Just sidebar. So, but anyways. All right. So number one, the best whiskey, I want to say bourbon, but the best whiskey that this show has ever reviewed is what?
The 13th Colony Double Oaked.
Oh, and what it was
Batch 1.
batch 1, and it scored a what?
91.
It is the only 90 plus score ever.
Yeah.
In the
And it's
history
deserved.
of the Manhood podcast.
It's deserved. Look, I've still got some. If you're a local listener, like, hit me up. I will pour you a 2-ounce sample, just like I sent Aaron. I sent Aaron 4 ounces because I wanted him to be able to enjoy it. But I will give you 2 if you're local. But it's really good. They actually just released this year's batch, and it is $189 MSRP.
Ooh. So what is it going
It's
for?
tough.
What's it going for?
I don't know. I haven't seen it in the stores. I actually went to go buy it. Are you familiar with a Happy Dad?
Happy Dad.
You know what a Happy Dad is? It's a seltzer.
Oh, yeah.
And they've got like electrolytes in them. They're fantastic. Anyways, I went to go, like, my wife and I, Ashley and I, we really like them. So I went to go find some Happy Dads. They were sold out. And I looked specifically for this because I follow 13th Colony on some of their socials, and they said that it's out. It's hit distributors, which means it should hit stores. But yeah, that's a lot of money, bro.
Yeah. So my question is,
That's
though,
a lot.
have you gone to 13th Colony and be like, hey, maybe you should add to your list of like medals? This is that 13th Colony Double Oaked is the highest rated whiskey on the Manhood podcast.
Yeah, I'm trying not to mess up the 13th Colony sponsorship either.
Yeah, but I mean,
I have been to 13th Colony. I bought a Cask Strength rye there that was really, really good that I'm trying to hold on to because it doesn't exist anymore. It's a single barrel. And then they released a single barrel Cask Strength bourbon that's really good. I think their regular rye is one of the best ryes you can get on the market. Between that, Chattanooga's got a really good rye.
Yeah, they do.
And then Old Forester's rye is really good. But yeah, I think it's fantastic. But the Cask Strength rye was definitely a one-off thing that they nailed. They hit a home run on it. So yeah, man, it's good.
Yeah. So, like I said, I will drop the list. So we've got 52 bourbons that we have, 52 whiskeys that we have tasted on the Manhood podcast so far. I'll drop the full list. If we've got a value score, it'll be on there, as well as the what it's worth score if it's above the $60 value score max. And so we've got everything from a 91 down to a 25 is the lowest score.
Yeah, the 25 Iron Hills, that's the Oregon bourbon?
No, that's South Dakota. That is South Dakota.
South Dakota.
Yep.
Man, that is shockingly low.
That is shockingly low. If you tasted it, it probably should be worse. Which the second worst.
Man, I'm looking at the. Yeah.
Have you had the old Bardstown?
At the bottom of this, I've had Old Bardstown. I don't have any. I've had it. I mean, it was just
not good.
It seems like it would do well as like a well liquor.
Yeah, there's a reason it's rated 28. Yeah. No.
Haven't had any Cooperstown. I've had a few and we say a few as in FEW. It's a single barrel. I haven't had a single barrel. I've had like a regular few. It was good. Pinhook. So I'm fascinated by Pinhook. It is sourced. They get it from several different distilleries, but they actually have a vertical series. So they took a batch of barrels and they started releasing them at 4 years, and they're going to go all the way to 12 years with the same juice to see how it has changed over the course of all these years. Well, I actually have 4, 5, 6, and 7. I was going to try to collect the entire vertical series. It's just so hard to find. Like I'm just kind of stuck sitting on 4, 5, 6, and 7. So yeah, I think it's a cool concept. They're certainly not the first ones to do that, but yeah. So anyways,
now, the bourbon Oregon you're talking about is Burnside, and so it's actually rated a 63 overall.
I see it,
and it's worth the price of admission. It's pretty good. So anyways, I'll drop that list in the show notes with this episode, so you'll have the whole list of where everything we are at so far, and we'll do this again in anywhere between 10 and 20 future episodes. So,
we'll be back to regularly scheduled programming next week, right? Or next
2
episode.
weeks. Yeah, next episode. So, just
that's right.
We're figuring this out going forward, but we got a few more regular episodes, and then we're going to jump into the Christmas time. We're going to do something special for Christmas time, and Dwat and I'll talk about that off air here in about 30 seconds. But we'll do something, and then moving forward after that, we'll just keep it rolling. Again, you guys' input is greatly appreciated. Reach out at manhood.neat@gmail.com. We'd like to know what you like, what you don't like, what do you think is a waste of our time, what's a waste of your time, more importantly. But we're just here to hopefully give you some entertainment, but more importantly, to give you some things that help you in your walk with the Lord Savior Jesus Christ. So reach out, let us know what more we can do or what less we can do, and we'll do that for you. Dwat, you want to close us in prayer, and we'll get out of here.
Yeah, absolutely. Father, thank you for this time. We just ask that you would be with our listener. And again, we understand that there's some contentious decisions that are going to be made in the next couple of months. And we just pray that you would help them understand that Jesus is King, that the Lord is the Lord of all, and that ultimately it doesn't matter who is in office, who's in what position, that ultimately Jesus wins. And we ask that you would just, again, anything that we said in error, we just ask that you would give us grace, Father. Again, we just pray for our listener and pray that they would be able to just lead well wherever they are, that they would be able to do what they do and honor you, Father, whether it's cutting the grass or sitting in a business meeting or counseling an employee, whatever it is, Father. We just ask that they would just honor you with their thoughts and their words and their actions. And we ask all of this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. All right, we'll catch you next time on the Manhood Neat podcast. Finals tonight. You have to play it.
Destiny?
No, I deleted Destiny.
I don't believe that.
No, I actually did.